As a lifelong Windows user, well, except for my Linux adventures, for the first time I was intrigued about a lineup of MacBooks. And finally the reviews showed that they could be the best value notebooks in the market.
These laptops have been nice.
So I decided to take the leap and mixed into my kit this 14 inches M1 MacBook Pro. And in this video I'm gonna show you what matched or exceeded my expectations, what fell short, and why I think for some people these might still be the best value notebooks in the market, especially because of the launch of the new M2 Pros. Yeah, Mary. In this channel I help with the tech tools to be creative. Now, most Apple reviews that I see out there begin with something that their fans are very fond of, which is the design. But the only thing that I really cared for was value for money, which is something that I had never seen before with Apple products. As a content creator and freelancer, my workstation had to be somewhat powerful, so I assembled this custom PC with a Ryzen 9, 32GB of RAM, a GeForce 3060 Ti, which was very difficult to find, this amazing 4K display from BenQ that you can see a dedicated video on the channel right here, and it all costed roughly 2,000 euros or dollars. Now, a similarly spec'd notebook would cost over 3,000 euros or dollars easily. But suddenly with the M1 lineup, this totally changed. Now I could begin telling you about the specs and how they are on a similar level, but let me just show you this. And just for reference, these are the specs of the model that I have here. It's a 10-core CPU, 16 cores GPU, 16 gigs of RAM, and 1TB SSD, M1 MacBook Pro 14 inches. Now for me, heavy usage of my computer means when I'm editing something on DaVinci Resolve, and at the same time I open up Lightroom and Photoshop to try to edit some picture to insert into the video, or maybe I open also After Effects at the same time, while also browsing on Chrome, so things begin stacking up. And to my surprise, it was very hard to find a spot after which this would begin to have some trouble. It was simply handling everything, no problems. And the RAM, which was always a little bit of a concern of mine, always operated very smoothly, adding up to make things work faster and using the swap memory only when really necessary. But still, the internal memory is so fast that I never noticed it was using the swap. Now, one of the moments that I realized it was struggling a bit was after saving the session, meaning restarting the computer and reopening everything that was open before, after maybe a month or so. And I had 5 Adobe programs open at the same time and maybe 40 tabs on Chrome. Then it was really necessary to shut everything down, reboot the machine, and it was back to normal. Okay, let's step back for a second. Getting one of these, you're gonna find yourself with a very sleek and robust notebook. A bit thicker than what I imagined, but it's no issue at all. Still fits very well inside the backpack and weighs only 1.6 kilo. The keyboard is very comfortable and the key presses are very smooth and silent. Just makes it very nice to write for extended periods of time. And the Touch ID is very convenient for quick unlocking it. And first I thought about using a mouse as I did with all my previous notebooks, but suddenly I noticed that using the gestures in the touchpad made it much faster to operate the MacBook. It's just very convenient. If you're in a darker environment, the keyboard has backlighting, so it's very easy to type. The screen goes up to 1600 nits in its max brightness. But on average, and not to become a heat bomb, it limits at 1000 nits, which is more than enough on a bright environment like this one, for example, to be able to use it without any kind of issues. But usually I'm around 60 to 70% brightness. By the way, for professionals that need an accurate monitor, this is a very good choice. This Liquid Retina display is 3024 by 1964. Apple says it's compatible with the P3 color space, but definitely 100% sRGB is guaranteed. Anyways, in comparison with my BenQ color-corrected display, I don't see any differences. By the way, the 120Hz display refresh rate is no joke. It really makes everything so much more fluid than running at only 60 Hz. Now, there's only 2 things that bothers me about the display. The first one is actually a choice, as the 16 inches has much more real estate on the screen for you to be able to edit and do everything without having to rearrange everything on the screen. But it's much bigger and heavier. Especially on DaVinci, it can be a little bit boring sometimes. But anyways, you can still plug it into 2 external monitors if you need it. And as you can see, the famous notch is here on the MacBook also. But this one surprised me the opposite way. I noticed way less than I thought I would. And this is because many softwares blend it into their screen. And since on the Mac the software's menu is always up here together with the notch, it kinda stays together and you don't notice it that much. Except in some cases you have excess menus or icons and it just starts looking like it's gonna go behind it. But anyways, it's there because it features a very good 1080p webcam, That made me realize it was totally useless to try to use the phone or a ZV-1 for example as an external camera because the quality is just already too good. Now regarding connectivity, it was always funny for me seeing Apple users sharing dongle recommendations, while on all other notebooks in the market we have seen this port since forever. But anyways, this is totally in the past because in this new lineup you have 3 Thunderbolt USB-C ports, 1 full HDMI, a headphone jack and a SD card slot. Now these ports I use 100% of the time and every single day, but there are 2 other ports that I use very rarely, but that it could be useful to have it available. So for this I got dongles. It's a USB-A port, usually for my old SSD drives, and an Ethernet port for places in which the Wi-Fi is not working that well. Now I've been taking this notebook in and out of the backpack, on trips, to coffee shops, co-working, and its physical state is actually just like brand new, even after 6 months of usage. Now just to play on the safe part, I got also this cover from a partnership between the brand and Ali Abdaal. And also because it's pretty cool. And since I know you guys are gonna ask about it, the link is in the description. Now another very hot topic is the battery life. And I have to admit that I'm constantly forgetting to plug it in. And by the end of the day, I still have enough to go home. And this is because the battery is usually lasting 7 to 8 hours editing, and the performance of the MacBook does not go down if you're not plugged in. Which is a totally different story from when I was using a Dell XPS. Windows machines in general don't perform the same if they are not plugged in. And in days that I was just browsing, researching, it lasted the whole day, plus half of the next day. And by the way, especially if you have a Windows machine, also you might be wondering how is my workflow now that I have the Mac notebook, but still a Windows workstation. And if you'd like me to do a special video dedicated to this, write in the comments below. Now overall, this is a very fast machine that just ticks all the boxes for content creators. And running some benchmarking softwares, you just see that there's nothing that it can't handle. Although there are some things that you have to keep in mind not to waste your money, which took me a lot of research to understand and a couple of trips to the Apple Store. The first one, like I said before, is the choice between 14 and 16 inches. Not only I was impressed that the size difference is very big, but also there's something very important to notice, which is the cooling system. In the bigger notebook, the cooling system is much stronger. So if you're thinking about speccing out, meaning getting the best CPU, best GPU, everything, you should do it on the 16 inches. The specced out 14 inches is not as powerful as a more basic model of the 16 inches. And this is all because of thermals. So if you're planning to go M1 Max with the maximum of RAM, do the 16 inches. Now with the M1 Pro and the 14 inches, I never noticed it was throttling or just getting insanely hard. So the thermals for this setup are just fine. Now on the lower end, the difference between the basic models and a little upgrade between CPU and GPU is not that significant, so I would totally keep watching for the gap in price to be a little bit reduced so that you can upgrade to the next version. Otherwise, reality is that the basic model might just be enough. Now regarding the SSD size, I would totally recommend going from 512 to 1 TB to take advantage of the very fast internal SSD and bandwidth. Editing from external SSDs, I noticed I wasn't getting the same performance. So if you're planning to edit from external SSDs, don't cheap out on them like me. Go for a blazing fast SanDisk or Samsung T-Series. Now I don't know about going further than 1 TB in the internal storage because the upgrades in storage from the Apple Store are just insanely expensive. So would I recommend it? Definitely yes. The competitors, the Razers or Dell XPSs, are just not matching the power and the price range. And within the M1 lineup, the reality is that you're probably going to be fine just with the M1 Pro. And unless you're doing 3D renders or a lot of After Effects, the M1 Max just might not be the best value for you. Now comparing with the M2 Pros, the base model comes at about $2,000, while the base model for the M1 Pro comes at about $1,700. So it's a $300 gap that probably is gonna get even bigger. And if you really wanna trick the system, you can notice that the silver version is cheaper than the space gray one. Alright, let me know in the comment section below if you have any doubts or if you want me to show something specific a bit more in depth about this notebook. In the meantime, just follow me on the socials as FlyHenry, and if you wanna keep watching something interesting, tailored especially for you from YouTube, check out this video over here. Alright, thanks a lot for sticking around, and I'll see you in the next video. And subscribe to see when the next video comes out. Ciao!